The night was cold. Rain poured over the silent streets. Lila walked fast through the puddles, her jacket soaked and torn. She was just trying to get home, but destiny had other plans. A sudden cry broke the silence. "Let go of me." A boy's voice full of fear. Lila stopped. She looked toward the dark alley. 3 men surrounded someone. A boy in a white shirt. His watch gleamed under the light. "Nice watch, rich boy." One man laughed. The boy struggled. "I said no." Lila's heart raced. She could walk away, but she didn't. She grabbed a brick. "Hey," she shouted. The men turned. "What do you want, girl?" "Leave him alone," she said. They laughed. She threw the brick. It hit one man's arm. "Run," she shouted. The boy ran with her. Their footsteps echoed in the rain. Behind them came angry voices. They hid inside an old factory, both gasping for air. The rain fell harder outside. "You saved me," the boy whispered. "Don't thank me yet." Lila said, "Who are you?" He asked. "Someone who helps fools," she replied. He smiled. "I'm Daniel." She didn't answer. Names made things complicated. "Why did you help me?" he asked. "Because no one helped me," she said. He looked down. "You could have died." "So could you," she said quietly. Silence filled the space. He smiled again. "You're different." "Good," she said. "Stay alive." The rain slowed. Lila checked the street. It was empty. "Go home," she said. He looked at her. Not exactly nearby. His shoes were too clean, his watch too shiny. "You're not from here," she said. He sighed. "No, I took a wrong turn." "Looks like a wrong life," she said. He laughed softly. They reached the main road. A diner sign flickered. "Go inside and call someone." "What about you?" he asked. "I'll be fine," she said. He pulled out a silver card. "Then take this." She read the name, Daniel Reed. Her eyes widened. "Reed as in Reed Corporation." He nodded. "My father's company." Lila froze. She had just saved a billionaire's son. He smiled kindly. "You didn't just save my life. You might have saved who I am." He looked at her one last time. "Come to this address tomorrow." Then he walked away into the rain, leaving her standing in silence, with a heart that finally believed even the poorest hands can change the richest soul.
And then he stepped into a waiting car that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Black, sleek, expensive. The driver opened the door and Daniel looked back one last time. Lila stood there in the rain, the silver card clutched in her hand, wondering if she'd just imagined it all. But deep down something told her this was only the beginning. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the cracks of Lila's small window, touching the edges of her worn-out blanket. She blinked, still half asleep, the sound of last night echoing faintly in her mind. The rain, the shouts, Daniel's trembling voice. For a moment, she thought it had been a dream. But then she saw it, the silver card lying on her table, its surface catching the morning light. Daniel Reed, Reed Corporation. She sat up slowly, her breath catching. She knew that name. Everyone in the city did. Reed Corporation owned half the skyline. Hotels, banks, tech firms. They were the definition of power and wealth. And last night she had saved the air. Lila stared at the card for a long time. It didn't feel real. People like him lived in another world, one she had never been part of, one she never could be. But something about his voice, his eyes, that lost look, made her curious. Maybe he'd meant it when he asked her to come. She hesitated for hours before finally, slipping the card into her pocket and stepping out. The taxi stopped in front of tall iron gates. Beyond them stretched a mansion so large it looked like it had been carved from a dream. White marble walls, fountains glistening under the sun, and gardens that seemed endless. Lila hesitated before the guards approached. "Can I help you, miss?" one asked, clearly uncertain why someone in her faded clothes was standing there. I'm here to see Daniel Reed," she said softly, holding out the card. They exchanged a look. One of them picked up the phone, spoke briefly, then nodded. "He's expecting you." Lila's heart skipped. "Expecting her? The gates opened slowly and she walked through, her steps unsteady. Everything was too perfect. The trimmed hedges, the polished stone paths, the silence. Inside, the mansion smelled of roses and wealth. The chandelier above her looked like something out of a museum. She felt small, smaller than she'd ever felt before. "Lila," a voice said behind her. She turned. Daniel stood at the top of the stairs, dressed sharply but smiling that same warm smile she remembered. "You came," he said. "I wasn't sure I should," she replied. "I'm glad you did." He walked down, his expression soft. "My father wants to meet you." Her chest tightened. "Your father?" "Yes, he insisted. He wants to thank the person who saved his son." Moments later, she found herself in a grand study. The man behind the desk looked up, older, with the same sharp eyes as Daniel, but colder. "So you're the girl," he said, voice low and firm. Lila nodded nervously. "Yes, sir." Daniel's father, Mr. Reed, stood. "You have my gratitude. Daniel told me what happened." She nodded again, unsure what to say. "I'm just glad he's okay." He studied her for a moment, her worn jacket, her trembling hands. "You work?" "Yes, sir." "At the diner on West Street." He smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You risked your life for a stranger. That's rare." "I didn't think," she admitted. "I just acted." He nodded slowly. "Still, you deserve something for it." He turned to Daniel. "Get her a check." Lila blinked. What?" Daniel frowned. "Dad, that's not—" Mr. Reed held up a hand. "Gratitude should be practical." "Let her take it." But Lila shook her head. "I don't want money." That caught him off guard. "Everyone wants money, Miss Lila," she said quietly. "And not everyone." For a moment, silence filled the room. Mr. Reed looked almost intrigued. "Then what do you want?" She hesitated. "Nothing, just tell your son to stay away from dark alleys." Daniel smiled at that. "She's right, Dad." Mr. Reed gave a small, measured nod. "You're different." She turned to Daniel. "I should go," but Daniel stopped her. "Wait, please, I'd like you to stay for lunch." Lila looked at him, really looked, and saw something honest in his eyes. Not pity, not guilt, just sincerity. Against her better judgment, she nodded. Lunch was strange. The table was too big, the silverware too polished, the silence too loud. Lila barely touched the food. Daniel kept trying to make her laugh. But his father mostly watched, quiet, calculating. At one point, Mr. Reed leaned forward. "Where are your parents, Lila?" She paused, then said softly, "Gone." He said nothing more. But Daniel reached across the table, his hand brushing hers briefly. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She gave a small smile. "It's okay. I've been on my own for a long time." After lunch, Daniel showed her the garden, sprawling, breathtaking, unreal. "You could get lost here," she said. "Sometimes I do," he admitted. They walked in silence for a while until Daniel said, "You know, my father doesn't really trust people." "Neither do I," she replied. "But I want to," he said. "You made me realize that maybe there are still good people left." She looked at him, uncertain what to say. He smiled softly. "Can I see you again?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Maybe," as she walked away later, the card still in her pocket. She didn't notice Mr. Reed watching from the window, his expression unreadable. He turned to his assistant and said quietly, "Find out everything about her." That night, Lila sat in her small room staring out at the city lights. She didn't know that her life was already changing, that the man she'd saved was about to pull her into a world of secrets, danger, and unexpected love. Because while she had saved Daniel from the bandits, someone somewhere was now planning to take revenge, and Lila was about to find herself in the middle of a storm she never saw coming. For the next few days, Lila tried to return to her normal life. Long shifts at the diner, small tips, and endless nights alone in her tiny room. But normal no longer felt the same. Ever since that afternoon at the mansion, her thoughts kept drifting back to Daniel, the sound of his voice, the way he smiled when she spoke. Every night, she told herself it was foolish. He belonged to a different world, one made of glass towers and private jets. And she? She was just a girl who barely had enough to eat. But the heart doesn't listen to logic. Meanwhile, in the Reed mansion, another conversation was taking place. Mr. Reed stood by the window, his expression cold as his assistant handed him a folder. "Everything you asked for, sir. About the girl." He opened it slowly, scanning the papers. His brow furrowed as he read. No criminal record. No debts, parents deceased. Worked since 16. He paused, eyes narrowing. Grew up in East End orphanage. The assistant nodded. "She's clean, sir, but there's something else. She's been volunteering at a local shelter, and she paid for a stranger's surgery last year." Mr. Reed frowned. "How?" "She saved up her wages for months." He closed the file, his expression unreadable. "People like her don't do things like that without wanting something." "Sir," the assistant hesitated. "With respect, maybe she's just good?" Mr. Reed's lips curved slightly. "There's no such thing as just good in this world." The next afternoon, Daniel appeared at the diner, his presence turning every head. The waitresses whispered, the customers stared. But Lila just froze, her heart skipping. "You came," she said softly. "I said I would," he replied with that same easy warmth. "I wanted to see you again." She laughed nervously. "People are staring." "Let them," he said. "They stare at me no matter where I go." He sat down in her section, ignoring the shocked looks around them. "Order anything," he said. "My treat." She shook her head. "You already did too much," but he smiled. "You saved my life. I'm just trying to catch up." When her shift ended, they walked through the city streets together. The night was quiet, the neon lights painting their faces in soft color. "Why do you work so hard?" he asked suddenly. She shrugged. "Because no one else will do it for me." He looked at her with admiration. "You know, you're the first person who's ever talked to me like, I'm just a person." "Maybe that's what you need," she said. He stopped walking. "What if what I need is you?" Lila froze, her heart racing. She tried to speak, but before she could, a black car pulled up beside them. The door opened and Mr. Reed stepped out. "Daniel," he said sharply. "We need to talk." Lila's stomach sank. Inside the car, the air was tense. Mr. Reed sat across from them, his tone controlled but cold. "Daniel, I warned you about getting involved with strangers." "She's not a stranger," Daniel snapped. "She saved me." "And you think that makes her trustworthy?" Mr. Reed turned to Lila. "Tell me, Miss Lila, what is it you really want? Money, security, fame?" Her eyes filled with hurt. "I want none of that, sir. I just wanted to help." "People always say that," he said quietly, "until they find a price worth lying for." Daniel's voice rose. "Stop it, you don't know her." "And you do?" his father shot back. "You've known her for what, a week?" Lila's voice trembled. "Maybe that's all it takes to see someone's heart." The car went silent. Even Mr. Reed seemed momentarily struck by her words, but he quickly looked away. "Driver, take us home." That night, Daniel and Lila barely spoke. When they reached the mansion, Mr. Reed excused himself, leaving them in the hallway. "I'm sorry," Daniel said softly. "He's difficult." She nodded. "He just wants to protect you." "But he doesn't understand," he said. "You're the first person who made me feel—" He stopped himself, afraid of what he was about to admit. Lila smiled faintly. "You don't have to say it." "I want to," he whispered. "But maybe not yet." She left that night with her heart both heavy and hopeful. Days turned into weeks. Rumors spread. News outlets caught wind of the mystery girl seen with Daniel Reed. Cameras flashed outside her diner. Customers whispered. Some envied her, others mocked her. But through it all, she kept her head down. She didn't care what people said and only what Daniel felt. Until one evening, Mr. Reed called her to the mansion again. When she arrived, he was alone in his study. "Miss Lila," he said calmly, "you've proven me wrong." She blinked. "Sir? I thought you wanted something from us, but you've stayed true to yourself. For that, I owe you an apology." Her eyes widened slightly. "You don't owe me anything." He smiled faintly. "Maybe not. But you've changed my son and me. You reminded us both what decency looks like." Lila didn't know how to respond. He stepped forward, placing an envelope on the table. This isn't a payment. It's an opportunity. A scholarship. Full tuition at Crestwood University. Daniel insisted. Tears welled in her eyes. I can't accept that. You can, he said gently. Because it's not charity. It's belief. Just then, Daniel appeared at the door, smiling. Surprise? Lila covered her mouth, speechless. You did this? He nodded. You told me once that pain teaches faster than comfort. Maybe it's time you learn what peace feels like. She stepped forward, tears falling freely now. I don't know what to say. Just promise me one thing, he said softly. What? Don't disappear from my life. She smiled through her tears. Not even if you ask me to. Months later, she stood on the steps of Crestwood, books in her arms, the wind playing with her hair. A sleek car pulled up. Daniel stepped out, dressed simply for once. You look happy, he said. I am, she replied. Thanks to you. He smiled, stepping closer. No, thanks to you. Their eyes met. Two worlds that should never have collided, yet somehow did. And in that quiet moment, as the world rushed around them, Lila realized something. She hadn't just saved his life that night. She had changed it. And unknowingly, he had saved hers too.